Happy Easter, everyone. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you caught the scripture and the introduction to our sermon today. So it's Easter Sunday, and our scripture is not the one that you might expect. Usually we talk about the women who first discovered that Jesus had risen from the dead at the tomb. But today, we're actually talking about when the risen Jesus first ran into the disciples in the book of John. And in the book of John, Jesus breathes on the disciples. And we're going to talk a little bit about that breath today. So this is only the third time in all of Scripture that we discover God breathing on people. And the first time we discover it is when, in the very creation story, when, God molds us out of the mud and the clay, and then after he has formed us, he breathes life into us. It's the first breath we discover of God. The second time we discover it's actually a vision in Ezekiel when we see this breath of God happening again. Ezekiel has this vision where he goes to this valley and it's filled with these really, really dry, brittle bones. There's nothing left on them. And God tells him to do certain things. And each step he takes, these bones come back more to life. And at the very end, he says, call the spirits from around the world, which happens to be the same word for breath. And so Ezekiel calls the breath. And the breath fills all of these people, and they are finally truly alive. And that's really one of the best stories in Ezekiel. So here, when we see Jesus, he's seen the disciples for the first time after the resurrection, and we see him breathe life into the disciples. We see him breathe on them. It's no accident that happens. This is actually like fulfilling that prophecy that we saw in Ezekiel, where now these folks are becoming truly alive. So when my kids were little, and we shared the story about Jesus coming back from the dead, being resurrected, they used to get a little confused. And they used to think, well, Jesus, is he a zombie then? Because he's just come back from the dead. So he can't be like fully alive. He's like undead. And we took a lot of time telling our kids that is not it at all. Jesus is not a little alive. He's all the way alive. He is actually more alive than he was after he was born. He is fully alive. His spirit, his body, everything, fully alive, not a zombie. But what's interesting about this passage and about when we look at Ezekiel and John next to each other is that what we really learn is that Jesus was never the zombie, that we were the zombies. And instead of looking dead on the outside and being alive on the inside, we kind of reversed it, where we looked alive on the outside, but we were dead on the inside, until Jesus breathed life into us. And when Jesus breathed his life into us, we became fully alive on the outside and the inside. That's true for our story in Narnia today too. We see that when the lion Aslan comes back to life after his sacrifice for Edmund's sin, that what he does is he goes to all of the people who have died at the witch's hands, who have been turned into statues that cover her courtyard. He's gone to them and he's breathed on them. And when he breathes on them, they come back to life. And C.S. Lewis says that it no longer looked like a museum. It looked like a zoo. And that's a promise we hold today, that we have the breath of life within us because Jesus died and rose again. Jesus wasn't just the victor of death for himself, but he was victorious over death for us so that we would be victorious over death. And that is the promise of Easter. And it's a wonderful promise to have, that we can have true life here and now through Jesus Christ, and we can have true life in the world to come. That is such an awesome promise. So there's a couple things that I want you to reflect on this week as we begin the Easter season, which actually lasts for 5 weeks. And these are kind of the questions that I'd like you to think about. One, I'd like you to think about how you have become hard as stone. Where are the places in your life where you feel kind of dead? You feel maybe like a zombie. How has the world hardened you? And then on the other side of that, how is God softening you? How is he bringing life into your world and into your heart? How is he breathing new life into what you have? These are the promises of Easter, of new life for here and now, and new life in the world to come. So take a deep breath and remember that God is with you here and now, and that nothing, not even a quarantine, not even missing church, not even being separated from all those that you love, can separate you from the love of Jesus Christ and the promise of life through him. So I hope you hold on to that tightly this Easter, and that you remember we have so much to be grateful for.